What did I do?
Did you lower conversation?
I do. That's why I put you guys up for a second. This makes me feel cool. All right. So, my friends, what did you come up with? What evidence, if any, do you have that climate change is occurring? What did you say, Haley?
Global warming.
Okay, so you say global warming. What do you mean by global warming? So that by that you mean that the ice caps are melting?
Yeah.
I don't. That's why I'm asking you. What's what?
And the penguins are dying.
The penguins are dying. Now, I mean, I don't know who said that. Who was that said that? Was that you, Jacob? Because I was about to say that. I have not read, I mean, and I could be wrong because I am not the most. Okay, yep. So there are two things. So we have to think about locations, right? So the penguins that you generally think of, like the emperor penguins, where do they live? Do you know? Antarctica. They live on the like near the South Pole, right? On Antarctica.
Yeah.
Where do the polar bears live, friends?
North Pole.
They live near the North Pole in the Arctic Circle up north, right? So I just want to make sure that you know. I mean, are penguins dying? Sure, just like humans, or like everybody, you know, like cycle of life, right? Like we can sing the song. I have not read, but I don't know because again, I'm not a wildlife biologist and I don't spend my life like doing the research. I have not read that penguin populations are suffering yet. I would imagine that they will eventually, but they're not yet that I know it. The thing that I definitely have heard about, Beth, what were you just saying?
Well, so, like the polar bears,
For sure.
usually those pictures that you see where they look really skinny, it's usually because they're wet. Like they've jumped in and out of the water.
Well, some of it, but some of that, like, some of it isn't because they're wet, but some of them, they're like legitimately
Yeah, but
not
I've seen, like a bunch of pictures started
beefed up, right? Like they're like, yeah. So they're certainly struggling. Absolutely. And that comes from the ice caps melting. So that's one. What else did you say? Other evidence that you have that climate change is happening. Yeah. Did you have one? I thought I saw your hand go. Did you write something down, Sydney? You didn't write anything down? Oh. Go. What'd you say?
Sea levels are rising.
Sea levels are rising. Absolutely they are. And that's legitimately happening. I know a lot of this is like, oh, we're talking about it going to be happening in the future, but this is actually happening. If you go down to like New Orleans in Louisiana and you look at the areas that are on land now and you compare that to pictures from 10, 20 years ago, the sea level has risen and land that used to be, beach or beachfront property is now it's underwater property is what it is now. Yeah. What else? What other evidence do you have? Anything else that you can think of? Those are some big ones. Global warming encompasses a lot of it, doesn't it? But is it just that the entire world is getting hotter all the time? No. The reason I bring this up is that I heard an interesting story that I want to play for you. If I can get it to go. There we go. And this is an interview from an Iowa farmer. Okay. So he's from Missouri Valley. Does anybody know where Missouri Valley is? It's in Western Iowa, right? It's just a small town, farming town in Western Iowa. I'm going to make sure that my sound is on here. Because it's in the Missouri River Valley. It's not in Missouri. It's in Iowa. Kind of like Kansas City is in Missouri, right? Yeah, like all of these, yeah, because the names come from other things besides just the state, right? So Missouri Valley, the town was probably named before we had those states, but we had the rivers and the river names. All right, here we go. I'm going to play this for you real quick.
There's a lot more water in the Missouri River Valley than usual right now. It's because of rain on top of snow, on top of frozen soil. The U.S. Army Corps of Engineers expects more water this weekend, but not quite the levels endured earlier this week, which led to towns being evacuated and farms inundated along the banks of the Missouri in Nebraska and Iowa. Don Reef grows soybeans and corn just off the river. He also raises beef cattle and joins us today from his home near Missouri Valley, Iowa. Mr. Reef, thanks so much for being with us.
You're welcome.
And I'm going to take it as good news that you're able to join us from home.
Yes, we're fortunate that we don't live down on the farm.
What are things like in the area?
Everything in our area is busy. Traffic is rerouted to numerous locations. There's a lot of people confused on which way to go. There's water just about everywhere in front of my house, all the way to the river.
What do you know about your crops?
I was able to ride a four-wheeler through the mud, and on some roads yesterday, the water really receded. We probably have grain, corn, and soybeans in about 20 grain bins. I would say 7 grain bins have broken and spilled the grain onto the ground, and it's full of water and soaked up, and we've got quite a mess to try to salvage.
And what do you know about the cattle?
Well, the cattle, they were moved, and we've lost a few in the melee. They're not used to the stress. Boy, some of these cattle, they've just had too much stress. We had one yesterday just stroke out before we got it on the truck to get it safe to higher ground.
Mr. Reef, to your mind, is the weather certifiably, discernibly, markedly worse today than it was, let's say, 10 years ago?
It sure seems that we have more extremes. I think we have scientists telling us we're having a climate change, and I don't know if people really want to accept it, but I don't know. It seems like there's something to it to me. The warm air carries more moisture, and it seems like instead of drought conditions, we're getting wetter conditions in our area. Higher measurements of rain events, more violent storms. I guess people need to really, if you got any money left, spend it on insurance.
And you've kind of been caught up in a tariff war too, haven't you?
Oh yes, each sector has to make a sacrifice, and the farming community has made a big sacrifice with this trade war. We've seen soybeans last year go from 10.20 cash in Council Bluffs and Omaha to $8. Lowest prices probably in 15 to 20 years.
And how's your family doing?
My family's doing fine. I have a father that's 83, an uncle that we all farmed with. I guess he's about 78 years old. They've been through the flood in 1952, and they've been through this flood in 2011, and they hate to see it again. Seems like history's repeating itself all too soon, but it's hard for everybody to deal with.
Yeah.
So much damage.
Don Reef, farmer from Missouri Valley, Iowa. Thank you so much, Mr. Reef.
Thank you.
All right. So I just wanted to play that for you, just not to like try and convince you of anything, but just to have you recognize that absolutely the ice caps are melting, but that doesn't necessarily affect me here in Iowa, right? I don't have any polar bears in my backyard, right? Like that's not a thing. The sea levels are rising, like, and that's really bad. Like that affects a lot of people in the United States and around the world. But this climate change business is affecting us here too, right? And so one other thing that I'd like you to put in here on your list is just more extreme weather. And that's the thing that we're going to experience in Iowa is just more extremes, okay?
I feel like we did regular winter because last year we didn't get any snow.
Right. And we have to make sure that we're paying attention to weather versus climate, right? Because if you just have one really bad storm, like that may not be something related to climate change. That might just be a freak accident, right? I don't know if you've heard about when they talk about the flooding on the Iowa River, they'll talk about like 100-year flood, something that happens fairly regularly when we have documentation, hundreds and hundreds of years in the past, and we know that these things happen. The trouble is that it's happening more than every 100 years, right? And if it's happening every 10 years or every 5 years, that would be an indication that climate change is actually occurring. In fact, climate change, there was some scientists at Iowa State that were doing a study about how climate change is going to affect Iowa. And honestly, it's going to make Iowa more comfortable in a lot of ways. We're going to get less cold weather. It's going to be really nice. But the problem is that it's going to affect the way that farmers deal with it. It's going to affect the way that a lot of other things happen as well. Does that make sense? So I just want you to like have that kind of in perspective in your reality. Okay. That was my little spiel for that. I would love for you right now to move to your group. Okay. Your partner or partners. If you were not here yesterday, I can't remember. If they were not here yesterday, come on up here and I can find you a spot to be. Would you take your stuff with you and pull your Chromebook out also, please? Okay? Was everybody here yesterday? I can't remember. Go ahead and pull your Chromebook out. And everybody pull your Chromebook out and go to Canvas. I want to show you a few things on Canvas so that you know where to look. So once you get to Canvas, if you head down to the bottom, the very last section has a bunch of stuff in it that I just added this morning, okay? Things that are going to be helpful resources for you in this process and in this project, okay? I want to draw your attention to a couple of things and kind of walk you through a couple of things. Then I'm going to let you work for the day today, and then we'll step through things a little bit as we go, okay? The first thing that I want you to look at, and this is on your pink sheet as well, is the rubric. The rubric that's on the back. And again, it's up here in Canvas. So if you lose that pink sheet for whatever reason, everything is right here for you. I'm actually going to just click on it so we can open it bigger, maybe. I want you to just take a look through that. There's a lot of words on there. I don't want it to look too intimidating or scary, but I do want you to take a peek at it. Are you okay? Do you need a... You can go grab a drink of water if you want. This project that you're going to work on for the rest of the week, you'll be presenting on Friday, is worth 25 points. Okay? To put that in perspective about where we're at, we've done a couple of, in this little chapter thing that we've done a couple of homework assignments, each worth about 2 points. Your quiz was worth 9 points. So this is a big chunk of what your third trimester is going to start off with. Okay? I don't mean that as a threat, because I think that this is absolutely doable, and I think that many of you, all of you, have the capability of getting very high scores on this. But I want to make sure that you understand what you need to do. Okay? So if you look through here, as you know, because you've done rubrics before, right? Like you've seen this kind of setup. You're shooting for this level 3 column, right? In fact, often when I write rubrics, when I'm going to give one to you, I just want to show you this column. This is really where you want to be aiming. Okay. Value statement. So we did a little bit of that yesterday. And if you don't know your value statement or you want to change your value statement, hey, just pointing out to you here, if this will go faster than I want it to, or fast enough. They're all listed on Canvas. I'll show you in just a second again. Okay. These are the pieces that you will need to find in your research. The first one is the science, how it works. So I want you and your partner to figure out how this energy production happens. I think I mentioned to you yesterday that if you're in charge of solar energy, and if when you present you say the sun gives energy to the panel, and the panel converts that solar energy into electrical energy that is then sent to the grid, that is not sufficient. If it was that easy, there's no reason that we wouldn't have tons of solar right now, right? I want you to dig in a little bit to the science. If you want help, if you want to understand a little bit more about how it works and you're reading and it does not make sense, let me know, because I can talk to you about all of these. I teach this in physics. So I know this stuff and I'm happy to tell you about it, okay? Talk it through. So tell me about it. Information on the electricity generation is necessary. I want you to tell me 2 or more advantages to your alternative energy source. Stated clearly, and if you want to write this down or circle this on your sheet, I would make sure that you say, and described comprehensively. Comprehensive is a big word. What does comprehensively mean? Does anybody know?
Like, so people who don't know what you research can understand it.
Absolutely. So the people that haven't done your research can understand it, and so it's complete. Right? Those are the two big things in comprehensively. And then I also want you to acknowledge, to state, and again describe comprehensively two disadvantages. Every single one of these 5 different types of energy generation has disadvantages, and I want you to know that and acknowledge that. You need to identify disadvantages of other fuel sources. This is why solar is the best, because nuclear, blah, 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 and biofuels, blah, 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 right? This is a piece that we didn't really talk about yesterday, but I want to make sure it makes sense to you. And it's not good or bad whether or not it says this. Friends, I wanted you to have your computer open so that you could see where to find this stuff, but I do want your attention up here so that I know that you know this, okay? I want to know whether or not this is a good option for Iowa. Some of them are and some of them are not. And it's okay if they're not. That doesn't mean it's a bad energy source, alternative energy source. It just means it's not good for Iowa. 3 points just for citations. We're going to talk about that in just a second. And then we'll talk about the pitch on tomorrow probably, okay? Also on here, so you got the value statements. That's just the list that I showed you from yesterday. A research timeline. What's that? This is more detailed. So it just gives you a little more detail as to what we're thinking you should make sure you do. So you've already done your value statement and description, but you can maybe write a little bit more about that. You'll need to decide with your partner what kind of poster or information device you would like to use. Lucid Press. How many of you guys have used Lucid Press before more than once? Maybe one. Okay. So Lucid Press is pretty cool. It's just it's a way to organize things on one sheet, and I'll show you what that looks like in a minute. It's really easy to sign up for, and you can share it with your partner so you can all work on it, and then you share it with me. Okay. So if that's something you'd like to try, it's easy to do. You can also do Google Slides if that is more comfortable for you and you'd rather do that. I'm totally fine with that as well. Make sure you share it with your partners and share it with me. So that would be a good thing to do today. Start to look for some resources. And then if you're pacing yourself out so that you're not doing this all at the very end of the game, figuring out how it works and maybe identifying some advantages would be a good plan for today. Then tomorrow you can focus on disadvantages, whether or not it's a good option for Iowa and some disadvantages of other things. And then you can make some final edits. I think it's a good goal to have your poster done by Wednesday, by the time you leave on Wednesday in class, okay? And then we'll talk about presentation preparation on Wednesday and Thursday. Question? Yep. Oops, that's not, I went back too far. Let's see. Resources. This is not, I didn't give this to you. I didn't give it to you on your pink sheet. There was another page that I was going to give you on your pink sheet. Friends, this is where you need to look, okay? Wikipedia is not an okay source. I'm going to say that one more time. Wikipedia is not an okay source. I also don't want you to just randomly Google things because I don't know if you realize this, but there's a lot of misinformation out there about energy sources, about climate change. I don't know if you've been aware of that, but it's really true. So Mrs. Shamshore went through, or excuse me, Mrs. Murphy, she just got married, so her name's different. Woo-hoo! So I get confused. I forget these things. Went through and found you some awesome sites. These are the sites where you need to find your resources from. If you happen upon something else, a database, an article that you would like to use, you need to clear it with me if it's not from one of these 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 locations. But there is lots of information on all of these places. Okay, I looked through them this morning and they're great. I would recommend, as she said, start here. Okay, and they all have their username and password information for you. Okay, so that's where you're going to look for your information. I've just got 2 more quick things and then I will, Silly me. What am I doing? There we go. Then I'll be done and I'll let you talk to each other. Mrs. McGrain put together an example poster for you so that you could see she used Lucid Press to do this. So you can kind of see what it looks like. I'm going to see if I can zoom out, or I'll just download it so we can just look at it. Sorry. So this is what her poster looks like. She made this, like I said, on Lucid Press. It's pretty easy, pretty straightforward. You just kind of plug things in. I think, you know what? I think that some of us, no, we didn't use it. We ended up using Google Docs. Sorry, we were going to do this at the very beginning of the year, and then it didn't really work out. But it turns out a really nice page that you've got lots of different things. And if you're interested, I can show you exactly how to do it super easy. So if you want to do that, you're very welcome to. That's just a nice demo. And this was the last thing I wanted to show you. All of your citations need to be in APA style. I know that if you've written papers in English, you guys use MLA in English. MLA style, that's like the order in which you put things in. There are like 5 different official ways to do it. In science, we generally use the APA style. This is exactly how to do it for a website. And if you need help, let me know, because I'm super happy to help you. But when you have your citations on your poster or on your slides, they need to look like this. Okay? Does that make sense to everybody? Okay. I'm going to let you get started. I'm going to let you work, but any questions you have, let me know. All right? Follow that timeline and you should be good to go. Get to work.
You want to